Have you ever stopped to ask yourself who truly controls your mind? Who dictates the trajectory of your thoughts, the intensity of your desires, the calm or chaos of your emotions? Is it circumstance? Is it other people? Or is it something far deeper, a force that can either serve you as the ultimate weapon or betray you as the silent architect of failure? Today we are going to confront that force, the mind itself, and uncover the three laws that govern it. Where Napoleon Hill's audacious vision of success collides with the Stoic mastery of self. Most people live unconsciously, unaware that their mind obeys patterns far older and more powerful than they imagine. Thoughts are allowed to drift without discipline, emotions to rise without judgment, desires to surge without purpose. The subconscious becomes a playground for fear, doubt, and distraction. And yet the same mind, when harnessed, becomes a fortress of clarity, a factory of wealth, a crucible of resilience, and a cathedral of inner peace. This is not metaphor. It is law. It is science. It is power. The first law is the law of definite purpose. Napoleon Hill called it the cornerstone of all achievement. The principle that every thought, every plan, every action must converge on a single, unwavering vision. The Stoics, centuries before, practiced the same idea through reasoned focus and disciplined intention. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul must be guided like a commander guides an army, purposefully, rationally, unshakably. Without this law, the mind is a chaotic storm, a vessel adrift on a turbulent sea, easily manipulated by fear, desire, and circumstance. With it, the mind becomes a compass, an engine, a relentless force. Definite purpose is more than a goal. It is an alignment of thought, emotion, and action toward a singular vision. It is the deliberate programming of the subconscious, which, as Hill explains, obeys without question. The Stoics remind us that clarity of purpose anchors the mind in virtue, ensuring that every impulse, every desire, every impression is weighed, measured, and directed. In this law, ambition and calm coexist. Desire is potent, but reason governs its expression. Energy is high, but focus is absolute. The second law is the law of emotional control. Napoleon Hill emphasized that thoughts charged with emotion are the most powerful agents of change. Belief, desire, faith, all are fuel for the mind's creative engine. But unbridled emotion is also the seed of ruin. Anger, fear, impatience, envy, these forces hijack the mind, directing energy toward failure rather than triumph. The Stoics taught that the mind must govern the passions, that impressions are not facts, and that the soul cannot be disturbed without consent. Emotional mastery transforms energy into action, chaos into opportunity, impulse into strategy. Emotional control is not suppression. It is deliberate calibration. It is the ability to feel fully without being enslaved, to desire strongly without panic, to plan boldly without arrogance. Napoleon Hill's mind power is meaningless without this control. The Stoic ideal of tranquility is hollow without engaged ambition. Together they form a law that turns the mind into a precise instrument, every thought measured, every feeling harnessed, every decision deliberate. The third law is the law of imagination and visualization. Hill described it as the workshop of the mind, the place where desire is transformed into reality through clear mental imagery and persistent focus. The Stoics, too, engaged in mental exercises, rehearsing adversity, envisioning their conduct and imagining the outcomes of their choices before action. The law asserts that what is consistently impressed upon the subconscious, envisioned with clarity and emotionally charged, will manifest in the physical world. The mind shapes reality through repetition, belief, and intentional visualization. Imagination without control is fantasy. Emotion without focus is chaos. Purpose without vision is motion without direction. But when these three, purpose, emotion, and imagination, are disciplined and fused, the mind becomes a singular force capable of reshaping your life. Napoleon Hill saw this as a key to wealth and influence. The Stoics saw it as a key to virtue and sovereignty. Together, they reveal a terrifying truth: your mind will shape your life, whether you command it or surrender to it. Most people ignore these laws. They drift through life, their thoughts scattered, their emotions reactive, their vision blurred. They wonder why success seems elusive, why clarity is rare, why calm is fleeting. The answer is simple. They are violating the laws of mind power every moment. Desire is unfocused. Emotion is unmastered. Imagination is chaotic. They are swimming against their own nature, unaware that mastery is available the moment they claim it. The richness of life, the clarity of thought, the calm in adversity, the ability to attract opportunity, and the capacity to act with unshakable purpose. All of this flows from obedience to these three laws. Yet few follow them, and those who do rise early, deliberately and relentlessly, claiming a power that is invisible but undeniable, quiet but unstoppable, internal but universal. These laws are not abstract. They are practical. They are active. They are lived. Definite purpose is acted upon daily, morning and night. Emotional control is exercised constantly in every thought and interaction. Imagination and visualization are not idle daydreams. They are rehearsals for reality, carefully constructed and repeatedly impressed upon the mind until the subconscious takes over and the universe begins to align with intention. The mind is the battlefield. Thought is the ammunition. Emotion is the engine. Imagination is the blueprint. Purpose is the command. The first law, definite purpose, sets the target. The second, emotional control, aims the weapon. The third, imagination and visualization, fires it into the universe. Master these, and you control the trajectory of your life. Neglect them, and you remain at the mercy of circumstance, impulse, and the will of others. The fusion of Napoleon Hill's visionary laws with Stoic discipline is not optional. It is inevitable for anyone who wishes to live deliberately, achieve profoundly, and remain unshaken by adversity. Hill gives you the force. Stoicism gives you the framework. One provides the fire, the other the channel. Together they create a mind that does not merely react but commands, does not merely hope but creates, does not merely dream but achieves. Every moment you spend untrained, undirected, and emotionally reactive, your mind reinforces chaos. Every moment you exercise these three laws, the mind grows stronger, sharper, calmer, and more powerful. The process is invisible, silent, relentless, and over time it compounds into wealth, influence, clarity, and mastery that is undeniable and inimitable. The first law, definite purpose, is deceptively simple. Most people mistake it for ambition, for a wish, for a vague notion of what they want. But purpose is not a thought. It is a command. It is a declaration to the subconscious mind that shapes every decision, every impulse, every action. Napoleon Hill called it the foundation of success. The Stoics called it the alignment of the soul with reason. Together they reveal a terrifying truth. Without clarity of purpose, the mind becomes a servant to distraction, to fear, to external chaos. With it, the mind becomes a fortress, a weapon, a cathedral of inner power. Definite purpose demands more than thought. It demands obsession. It requires the mind to focus relentlessly, refusing to be diverted by trivialities, by doubt, by the seductive comfort of mediocrity. The Stoics trained themselves to meet adversity. With reason, Hill trained the mind to see opportunity in every challenge. When fused, these disciplines create a mind that moves through the world not blindly, not reactively, but with deliberate, unstoppable force. Every choice, every action, every thought is aligned. This is why the rich, the disciplined, and the extraordinary rise early. They understand that purpose is more than a goal. It is the command that programs the subconscious. It is the blueprint that shapes daily action. It is the lens through which reality is perceived and constructed. They rise while others sleep, not merely to act, but to impress upon their mind the clarity, the intensity, and the inevitability of their vision. The early hour becomes the forge where purpose is made unbreakable. The second law, emotional control, is the axis upon which all power rotates. Napoleon Hill taught that emotions fuel thought. They are the energy that animates imagination, belief, and desire. But uncontrolled, they become a storm that destroys clarity and undermines effort. The Stoics understood this centuries before, instructing that impressions are not facts, that every emotion must be examined, and that true freedom comes when the mind refuses to be enslaved. Together, These teachings form the law of emotional mastery, the ability to feel without surrender, to act without panic, to desire without distraction. Emotional control is not suppression. It is awareness, it is precision, it is sovereignty. Anger, fear, frustration, doubt, they will arise always, but they are instruments, not masters. The early riser learns to observe without attachment, to direct without force, to channel energy into creation rather than reaction. In this, the mind becomes both weapon and shield. Chaos no longer dictates action. Calmness governs the battlefield. The subtle power of emotional mastery, practiced daily, compounds invisibly until the person becomes unshakable, decisive, and inexorably effective. The third law, imagination and visualization, is where thought becomes reality. Hill called it the workshop of the mind. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining the challenges ahead to master them before they arrive. Both recognize the immense power of the mind to shape perception, circumstance, and outcome. In the early hour, when the subconscious is most receptive and the mind is unclouded, visualization is not fantasy, it is deliberate programming. What you impress with clarity and emotion, the universe arranges to manifest. But imagination without control is chaos. Emotion without direction is destructive. Purpose without focus is drift. The rich, the disciplined, and the powerful understand that these three elements, purpose, emotional mastery, and imagination, must be fused. Only then does the mind become a singular, unstoppable instrument. It sees opportunities invisible to the untrained. It acts decisively where others hesitate. It transforms challenge into leverage, desire into creation, and vision into tangible outcomes. Most people fail because they obey the wrong laws. They allow their mind to wander, to react, to be hijacked by circumstance. They invest energy in fear, distraction, and triviality. They dream without direction, desire without focus, act without clarity. They are slaves to the chaos of their own minds. The powerful are not. They rise early, cultivate purpose, master emotion, and direct imagination. Their mind becomes a fortress. Their life becomes inevitable. Their destiny, undeniable. The first law, then, is a blade that cuts through indecision. The second law is a shield that deflects chaos. The third law is a force that shapes reality. Together, they create the architecture of mind power. Every thought, every choice, every moment aligns with vision. Every obstacle is reframed. Every distraction is neutralized. Every opportunity is amplified. This is not theory. It is law. It is science. It is mastery. Napoleon Hill's genius lies in revealing the mechanics of thought, desire, and the subconscious mind as tools of wealth and influence. The Stoics' genius lies in revealing the mechanics of thought, emotion, and character as tools of virtue and calm. When combined, they produce a mind capable of commanding the world and mastering the self simultaneously. Few understand it. Fewer practice it. Those who do are unstoppable. The mind is a battlefield, but it is also a laboratory. Every thought you allow to linger, every emotion you feed, every image you hold in imagination becomes a compound in the chemistry of your destiny. The first law, definite purpose, is the blueprint. Without it, the mind drifts like a rudderless ship. You will float in currents, not your own, battered by circumstance, lost to impulse. But when purpose is clear, the ship becomes unstoppable. Every wave is accounted for, every storm anticipated, every course deliberate. Imagine waking before the world stirs, alone with your mind. The house is quiet, the street is empty, the day has not begun. Most would squander these hours in comfort, scrolling, drifting, surrendering to inertia. The powerful, however, understand the first law. These hours are leverage. They are the foundation for every thought, every emotion, every action. They are where your subconscious is impressed, where desire is anchored, where your vision is clarified. In these hours, purpose is not abstract. It is forged into inevitability. Emotional control, the second law, comes alive in these early hours. Anger, fear, resentment, desire, and doubt all rise to test your discipline. You are awake while the world sleeps. Your body whispers to return to comfort. Your mind threatens distraction. But the law demands sovereignty. Observe without attachment, direct without force, channel energy without surrender. The Stoics called this freedom. Hill called it faith in definite purpose. Together they show that calmness is not a luxury, but a strategic weapon, transforming thought and energy into momentum that cannot be disrupted. Imagine a mind trained to feel fully, yet act deliberately, to desire intensely, yet move calmly, to visualize relentlessly, yet remain anchored in reality. This is the fusion of Napoleon Hill and Stoicism, a mind that refuses to be hijacked, a spirit that refuses to be unsettled, a consciousness that refuses to wander. Every impulse is noticed, every distraction weighed, every desire harnessed. Calmness amplifies ambition. Discipline magnifies creativity. Persistence is no longer effort, it is inevitable. The third law, imagination and visualization, takes flight in the same hours. The subconscious mind is malleable. The imagination is fertile. The world is unclaimed. Every mental rehearsal, every clear image of your intended outcome, every emotional charge impressed upon the mind begins to magnetize circumstances toward reality. Hill said that thoughts backed by faith become reality. The Stoics said that repeated mental discipline shapes character and outcome. Together they reveal the truth. The mind is not merely reactive, it is creative. It constructs reality from intention, yet this law is easily corrupted. Imagination without purpose is fantasy. Emotion without control is chaos. Desire without clarity is distraction. The weak mind drifts between scattered dreams, reactive impulses, and fleeting emotion. The powerful mind rises early, programs the subconscious, tames the passions, and directs imagination with precision. It is a relentless daily practice. One day, the consequences are subtle. Weeks later, patterns form. Months later, momentum is undeniable. Years later, your life bears the unmistakable signature of your disciplined mind. Consider this. Every extraordinary life you admire, every business empire, every act of genius, every calm, commanding presence begins here, in silence, in thought, in rehearsal, in deliberate discipline of purpose, emotion, and imagination. The world will only see the results, but the invisible work is where mastery is forged. Those who ignore it remain reactive, lost, and powerless no matter their luck, circumstance, or talent. The first law is the spark of vision. The second law is the control that directs the spark. The third law is the furnace that transforms spark into fire. Together they constitute mind power in its purest form, deliberate, disciplined, and unstoppable. Napoleon Hill gives the mechanism. The Stoics give the framework. One provides energy. The other provides structure. One lights the flame. The other channels it into unshakable, purposeful action. In these early hours, while the world sleeps, you have the choice to obey the chaos of your own mind or to command it. You can allow fear, distraction, and impulse to dominate. Or you can impress purpose, instill calm, and rehearse intention. You can drift or you can rise. This is not theory, it is law. It is fact. It is the principle behind every life of extraordinary achievement. The mind obeys law whether you understand it or not. It obeys habit, emotion, and repeated visualization. Neglect these laws and your mind obeys fear, doubt, and the will of others. Practice these laws and your mind obeys your vision, your desire, and your purpose. The difference is invisible, yet the outcomes are monumental. The ordinary are blind to the rules that govern their own minds. The extraordinary master them consciously. In every moment, the mind presents the same choice: control or surrender, discipline or chaos, calm or reaction, creation or drift. The early hours magnify this choice. Waking early is not merely habit. It is deliberate training. It is the arena in which these laws are impressed, exercised, and made unbreakable. By rising while the world sleeps, you amplify every advantage. You neutralize distraction. You cultivate calm. You energize purpose. You magnetize reality toward vision. The rich, the disciplined, The psychologically powerful understand this. They do not wait for inspiration. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They rise early. They master their emotions. They define their purpose. They visualize their outcome. And from this foundation, they act decisively, strategically, and unshakably throughout the day. Their results are not accidental. They are inevitable. The battlefield of the mind is not abstract. It is visceral, intimate, relentless. Every day thoughts assault you, emotions surge like tides, and distractions strike like unseen arrows. Without mastery of the three laws, the mind becomes a puppet of circumstance, a slave to impulse, a battlefield without command. But when the laws are understood, internal sovereignty is gained. Napoleon Hill provides the mechanics of thought. The Stoics provide the structure for emotional and rational dominion. Together, they create a consciousness capable of bending reality, mastering adversity, and commanding life itself. Definite purpose, the first law, is the compass. It is the laser focus that cuts through indecision, doubt, and distraction, but clarity of purpose is not enough. It must be impressed on the subconscious with repetition, intensity, and unshakable faith. In the quiet hours before the world stirs, the mind is malleable, responsive, and incredibly powerful. Here, visualization becomes not imagination, but construction. Here, every thought of your goal is a brick in the foundation of inevitable achievement. But a foundation alone cannot endure without emotional control. The second law is the anvil upon which mental steel is forged. Fear, anger, doubt, and desire are all energy. Energy can be destructive or constructive, depending on governance. The Stoics taught that the soul is disturbed only if it consents. Hill taught that faith and emotion, properly directed, become unstoppable forces of creation. In practice, this means rising above reaction, observing the surge of feelings, directing them intentionally, feeling fully yet acting deliberately. Emotional mastery transforms volatility into power, chaos into leverage. The third law, imagination and visualization, is where the mind constructs reality. The subconscious mind obeys repeated, emotionally charged impressions. Hill described this as the workshop where desire becomes reality. The Stoics described it as mental rehearsal, premeditating adversity, and controlling impressions before they control you. When these laws are fused, imagination becomes not fantasy, but a rehearsal of triumph, a template for reality. What is repeatedly visualized and emotionally energized is inevitably manifested. But mastery of these laws is not theoretical. It is forged through daily discipline. The early hours of consciousness are sacred because here clarity is highest, distraction is lowest, and emotional control is most attainable. Here you impress the mind with purpose, calm the tides of emotion, and direct imagination toward creation. Every repetition compounds. Every moment of discipline strengthens the fortress of consciousness. Every act of focus reinforces inevitability. Over time, the ordinary mind becomes extraordinary. The reactive mind becomes deliberate. The distracted mind becomes unstoppable. Consider this: most people surrender to their minds unconsciously. They drift, react, panic, and dream without clarity. They live as if the mind is their master rather than their tool. Wealth, opportunity, influence, and inner peace slip through their fingers because the mind, left untamed, obeys the lowest, loudest impulses. The disciplined mind, conversely, obeys law. Purpose direct. TS. Emotion energizes without chaos. Imagination creates. The result is not just achievement, it is inevitability. The Stoics understood the inevitability of internal sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the mind as a citadel, impervious to disturbance unless surrendered. Napoleon Hill understood that the subconscious, properly impressed, magnetizes opportunity, attracts resources, and creates circumstances aligned with vision. Together, they offer a map for those willing to rise early, confront discomfort, and command their internal universe. 1 hour of deliberate practice compounds into decades of advantage invisible to the untrained observer. Imagine yourself in this laboratory of consciousness. The house is silent, your mind is awake, you review your definite purpose with clarity, you observe every emotional impulse, feeling it without being controlled. You visualize outcomes with precision, rehearsing the path to achievement. Every cell in your body aligns with intention. Every thought impresses the subconscious. Every emotion is disciplined. The day has not begun, yet victory is already planted. The untrained mind perceives only chaos in this silence. Fear and doubt whisper endlessly. Comfort beckons. The bed tempts. Distraction seduces. But the disciplined mind, the mind trained in the 3 laws, observes, chooses, and commands. Fear is energy to be directed. Doubt is a challenge to be reframed. Discomfort is the forge of strength. The world will not wait. Circumstance is indifferent. Opportunity favors the prepared. And preparation begins in the mind, in stillness, in discipline, in the early hour before the world stirs. Every extraordinary life, every wealth of influence, every act of mastery begins here. Not in luck, not in chance, not in comfort. It begins in the invisible work of the mind, defining purpose, mastering emotion, and directing imagination. The ordinary fail because they ignore law. The extraordinary thrive because they obey it. The difference is not talent, education, or resources. It is discipline, clarity, and deliberate obedience to these fundamental principles of mind power. The laws are not passive. They demand action. Definite purpose requires your mind to focus, your choices to align, and your vision to be repeated until it dominates thought. Emotional control requires your awareness, patience, and sovereignty over feeling. Imagination and visualization require repeated mental rehearsal, clarity of imagery, and emotional investment. Neglect any one, and the mind weakens. Practice all 3, and the mind becomes unstoppable, resilient, and capable of commanding reality itself. The fusion of Hill's audacious faith and the Stoics' disciplined calm is a formula for mastery few will ever experience. Hill lights the fire of desire. The Stoics channel it with unshakable reason. Hill teaches the subconscious to obey. The Stoics teach the rational mind to govern. The result is a consciousness that acts deliberately, feels intentionally, and visualizes relentlessly. One who obeys these laws wakes early, thinks deeply, acts decisively, and persists with calm endurance, reshaping the world in accordance with purpose. And now the choice is yours. Will you allow your mind to drift in chaos, obeying impulse, fear, and distraction, or will you command it, mastering thought, emotion, and imagination, rising early, practicing discipline, and building inevitable momentum in silence before the world stirs? The 3 laws are not suggestions. They are forces. They are architecture. They are the rules of the internal universe that governs your outer reality. Obey them, and you become unstoppable. Ignore them, and you remain powerless. The mind, when mastered, becomes a weapon sharper than any sword, a shield stronger than any fortress, a force that bends reality itself. But mastery is never given. It is seized in silence, in repetition, in the relentless application of law. The early hour, the quiet before the world intrudes, is where this mastery is forged. It is where the ordinary are left behind, drifting in distraction, while the extraordinary imprint their destiny into the very fabric of consciousness. Definite purpose, when internalized, is no longer a goal. It is a command. The subconscious begins to act with fidelity, moving unseen forces, recognizing opportunities invisible to the untrained eye, magnetizing circumstances, resources, and people toward the life imagined with clarity. Desire, once scattered and weak, becomes a concentrated, directed energy that cannot be diverted. Each morning, as the world sleeps, the mind rehearses victory. Each thought, each visualization, each controlled emotion becomes a brick in the foundation of inevitability. Emotional control transforms the raw energy of feeling into kinetic power. The world will always provoke, tempt, and threaten, Anger, fear, doubt, frustration, these are constants. The weak mind surrenders. The trained mind observes, measures, and channels. The Stoics taught that impressions are not facts, that emotions obey reason or eos, and that true freedom is internal sovereignty. Hill taught that emotion, directed, fuels creation. The early hours are the arena in which this law is exercised with precision. The mind learns to feel without being enslaved, to desire without being consumed, to act with calm force in the presence of any storm. Imagination and visualization, the third law, turns thought into reality. The mind cannot distinguish between vividly imagined success and experienced success if the impression is charged with emotion and repeated. Here lies the power Napoleon Hill described, the ability to magnetize circumstances toward intent. Here lies the Stoic discipline, rehearsing adversity, preparing for challenge, refining action before chaos arrives. The fusion is unstoppable, a mind that sees opportunity where others see obstacle, that acts decisively while others hesitate, that commands reality without resistance because it has been meticulously rehearsed in the invisible hours of mastery. Every morning, the practice compounds, definite purpose anchors the subconscious, emotional control directs energy without waste, imagination and visualization program reality. Moments of stillness, once squandered, become the engine of exponential advantage. 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 year, compounded, disciplined, unbroken, produces results that seem miraculous to the untrained observer, but are inevitable to the one who obeys law. The extraordinary understand this. They rise before the world, not for habit, not for show, not for fleeting inspiration, but to command their internal universe. The early hour is their laboratory, the forge of mind power, the moment when the invisible scaffolding G of their life is constructed. They impress purpose upon the subconscious. They tame emotions before chaos arrives. They rehearse their vision before the world demands action. By the time others awaken, they are already ahead, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and strategically. Consider how subtle, relentless, and profound this power is. Most people react. They allow circumstance to dictate thought, fear to dictate action, distraction to dictate life. The rich, disciplined, and psychologically powerful act first. They imprint their will. They align every cell with intention. They magnetize the universe to respond to purpose. And they do it quietly, invisibly, daily. This is the terrifying, awe-inspiring advantage of obeying the laws of mind power. Hill emphasized faith. Stoicism emphasized reason. Obedience to the laws of mind power requires both. Faith in purpose and vision fuels relentless action. Reason and emotional discipline prevent derailment. Together, they produce an internal force field that cannot be disrupted by circumstance, obstacle, or opposition. Every day becomes leverage. Every challenge becomes opportunity. Every thought becomes construction. Every emotion becomes energy. Every visualization becomes reality. The mind, properly disciplined, becomes a magnet for achievement. Fortune bends to it not by chance, but by law. The early riser who applies these 3 laws daily understands that life is not chaotic. It is responsive to mastery. The mind is not passive. It obeys law. Emotion is not uncontrollable. It is harnessed. Imagination is not random. It is a blueprint. Purpose is not abstract, it is inevitable. Obedience to these laws is not optional. The difference between drifting and commanding, between mediocrity and extraordinary mastery. And the transformation is visceral. Over weeks, the mind becomes sharper. Over months, the subconscious obeys without hesitation. Over years, life itself reshapes to mirror the disciplined vision impressed during the quiet hours. Calm replaces panic. Action replaces indecision. Opportunity replaces stagnation. This is no secret. It is law. It is practice. It is discipline made visible. Those who do not understand will call it luck. Those who obey it will call it mastery. Now, the question is no longer theoretical. The battlefield is not distant. It is inside you in this very moment. Every thought you allow, every emotion you entertain, every image you hold in your mind determines the life you will live. The three laws, definite purpose, emotional control, and imagination, are not suggestions. They are forces. They are the architecture of your inner universe, and this is the hour, the crucible, the decisive instant in which mastery begins. Definite purpose is your command. It declares to the subconscious, to the universe, to yourself, this is what I am creating. No distraction, no doubt, no triviality can dislodge it. Emotional control is your armor. It allows you to harness energy, channel intensity, and convert challenge into leverage. Imagination is your forge. It transforms thought into reality, rehearsal into manifestation, vision into tangible outcome. Together, they form an unstoppable mind, disciplined, relentless, and sovereign. Imagine rising before the world stirs. You are alone with your thoughts. The body resists. The mind protests. Comfort tempts. Fear whispers. Doubt lingers. But you rise, you stand, you breathe, you command. Definite purpose is repeated silently, vividly, unshakably. Emotions are observed, acknowledged, and redirected. The mind's images of triumph are rehearsed, imagined with clarity, charged with energy, impressed upon the subconscious until the world itself begins to bend toward your vision. This is not theory. It is law. It is science. It is the process by which the extraordinary become inevitable, while the ordinary drift, distracted and powerless. The early hour, practiced daily, compounds invisibly. Decisions become sharper. Calm becomes instinctive. Action becomes precise. Obstacles are reframed as leverage. Fortune aligns itself silently with intention. Opportunity becomes obvious. Resistance becomes fuel. The mind is awake, sovereign, and unstoppable. The world will not wait. Circumstance is indifferent. Fear will always appear. Doubt will always whisper. Distraction will always seduce. But the trained mind, the mind that obeys the laws of definite purpose, emotional control, and imagination, remains. Unmoved, deliberate, and in command. It acts while the untrained hesitate, plans while the untrained drift, and achieves while the untrained merely hope. Power, wealth, clarity, and mastery are not gifts. They are consequences, and these laws are the mechanism. You are at the threshold. The choice is yours. Will you drift through life reacting to fear, impulse, and circumstance, allowing the mind to be hijacked, your energy wasted, your potential surrendered? Or will you rise literally and metaphorically into mastery, commanding thought, emotion, and imagination, impressing purpose upon your subconscious, harnessing energy, and shaping reality itself? The invisible work is the deciding factor. The laws are not optional. The time is now. Rise early. Define your purpose with unshakable clarity. Harness your emotions as fuel, not chaos. Visualize relentlessly, rehearse triumph, and impress your subconscious with unstoppable momentum. Take control of the mind that shapes your world. Let every thought, every feeling, every image become a building block of reality. Let the invisible hours compound into a life of mastery, influence, calm, and achievement. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for comfort. Do not wait for inspiration. The mind obeys law, whether you understand it or not. It will create your life. Chaos or command, drift or mastery, failure or triumph. Choose mastery. Choose discipline. Choose purpose. Choose calm. Choose imagination. Choose sovereignty. Choose to rise while the world sleeps and let your internal laws of power create the external reality you desire. The moment is yours. The mind is yours. The day is yours. The life is yours to shape, command, and conquer. Obey these laws, rise early, master your thoughts, your emotions, and your imagination. Impress purpose upon every cell of your being, and become unstoppable, because no one else will do it for you. No one else will grant you power, and the universe itself will respond only to the clarity, intensity, and discipline that you impose upon your mind. Rise, command, create, master,